you go into the room and there's 6 men who tie you up.
Someone's put a coin in my drink. Now I am a sailor. Now, obviously, quite a lot of these people die.
Hair of the dog, ship's biscuit, fight the French. That repeat.
Eat, sleep, rave, repeat. Hello, I'm Brad Allen.
And I'm Olly Hume.
And this is It Could Be Worse, the show where we make you feel better about your modern day gripes and grumbles by putting you in the shoes of someone from history who would absolutely kill for your problems.
That's right. This is sort of a form of therapy by comparison, I suppose. And as it's the first episode, I think a little bit of context is probably required here. So Brad and I, we are long-term friends, met at university, and we actually live together, which is quite important context because the dynamic in our house is I'm a bit of a stress head, get wound up by things, have a lot of complaints. Meanwhile, Brad will be reading a lot of historical literature, and usually when I come to him with what he would regard as a fairly menial complaint, he will hit me back with, it could be worse, and then recite some sort of horrendous lifestyle from 300 years ago. Just kind of remind me that pretty lucky to be alive now and be complaining about misplaced online deliveries.
That's actually not this week's complaint, but
It's not. It could be, though.
it might be. What we dealing with this week? What's been upsetting you?
So a few things have upset me this week. The complaint I want to bring to the table ultimately might paint me in a bit of a selfish light. But this week, my grandma, shout out to grandma, love her dearly. She is approaching...
Love you, Gran.
Love you, Gran. Very important to note. She's deaf, so she can't hear this. So that's fine. Basically, she's been in her house for 40 plus years, is moving into a little bungalow, and my parents have said, you're the eldest grandson, you're going to help us do the move. I'm going to be emptying cupboards, emptying the loft. A lot of physical grunt work when actually there are loads of other things I'd like to do with my weekend. So I feel that sort of family responsibility pressure.
Sure. Sounds a bit like you've been press ganged.
Yes, you could say that.
What do you know about the historical practice of press ganging?
I'm going to say I know very little about it.
Well, buckle up, boy, because you're in for a treat.
Okay, let's hear it.
This is fairly recent. This is more recent than you might think. This was still going on maybe 200 years ago.
Okay.
But particularly around 1800 is where you really start to see this kick off a lot, where Britain's navy pretty much trebled in size in about 50 years. So around 1800, there was suddenly, it'd gone from 40,000 sailors to 120,000 sailors. And similar, the army as well, because, you know, Napoleon's over in France, and we're just building up all these armed forces. And nobody wants to do it. Like, nobody wants to. So the army is made up of convicts, of people with debts, and they're forced into it. And the navy's even worse. Like, we'll get into life at sea more, but it's pretty bleak, as I think you can imagine, before we get into the details. And so press gangs started to spring up everywhere. And in short, they were gangs of toughs, street toughs, who would go around seaside towns. They would go around London, especially, you know, the docks down in the East End where a lot of ships were docking. They would find people who looked like they knew how to sail. They would find seafaring men, tattoos.
What does someone who looks like they know how to sail look like?
Tattoos, tar-stained hands, sort of striped shirt, a weather-beaten face, particularly a weather-beaten face, because obviously there's not much
SPF going on. There's not much retinol.
No.
The skincare regime in 1800 East End docks is not quite up to scratch.
It's not good. On life on board a ship, if you've been sailing to India and back, you're probably getting fairly sunburnt. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So these just groups of just gangs of men wandering around seaside towns looking for people they like the look of.
Yeah, walking the streets of Portsmouth, they see a bloke.
It's modern day Brighton.
They see a bloke with a tattoo of an anchor on him, and they're gonna grab him and
he looks good.
So then they would just lock you up for a couple of weeks, or as soon as they could get you on board a ship, and then they would ship you off to the tropics. You were then
part of the Royal Navy.
A Royal Navy sailor. And it wasn't just seaside towns. There were also merchant ships coming back from the Indies. You might have set off as a nice a sailor on board a merchant ship, trading tea with India, let's say.
Sounds like a good gig.
Yeah, you've done your, it's probably a long voyage. You've done 2 years. You've come back. You think, oh, nice to
See the wife.
Nice to see the wife and kids after a couple of years. Nice to settle down at home in Kent. And maybe as you're sailing back into the harbour, the Royal Navy are leaving the harbour, and they go, actually, we're quite short of men, and we're on our way to Trafalgar. So
we're off to war, actually, and you're going to join us.
We don't have enough men on the cannons. So
what would they'd stop the ship?
They would stop the ship.
In.
They would board the ship, and they would say legally, and this was legal. Like this was reinforced by courts. This was supported in Parliament because the Royal Navy was so important to Britain's power, and nobody wanted to do it. So this was literally seen as a necessity. And they would board the ship and say, "Who's your best men? We're having them."
Right. Okay. So you have literally no rights from a legal standpoint to say, I'm actually all right for fighting Napoleon, to be honest. I'm quite keen to just go home and chill out with my wife and my dog. I don't really want to be cannon fodder.
No, you had no rights.
No,
actually.
they're like, well, actually, you are doing that. So
Yeah.
that's
Now,
how that works.
Obviously, the people didn't love this. So there was not just physical force. Obviously, sometimes there'd be 5 blokes, and they would just grab one bloke, and you were cooked. But sometimes they would use subterfuge. They would use sneaky tactics.
Okay.
And popular at the time were crimping houses. Have you ever heard of a crimping house?
Oh, bloody love a crimping house. No, what on earth is a crimping house?
So a crimping house refers to a historical London lodging houses or brothels
Okay.
where unsuspecting men, often sailors, were decoyed, drugged by crimps, and forcibly enlisted. So
Can I ask what a crimp is?
a crimp? Well,
Sounds like a character from a Dr. Seuss book.
Yeah, a crimp, to me it sounds like a prawn. Maybe that's a shrimp. A crimp is someone who tricks you into being enlisted, right? So
A man?
both. A popular crimp were women, madams. So
Oh, I've been tricked by a madam again.
yeah, so you'd be in
You know
your
how that feels?
brothel, your crimping house,
Yeah.
and lovely Sandra would come over. She'd start chatting to you. She might be slipping gin into your pint of beer to get you a little bit loose,
So far, so good.
a little bit loosey-goosey. And then as the evening draws to the close after you've bonded all night, she might say, we've got actually a back room here. Do you want to...
So you think you're in?
You think you've pulled Sandra.
You think you've pulled Sandra?
It's a lovely day on shore for you. And you go back and there would be a gang. They would jump on you and tie you up, and you were then being crimped.
So you think you're going to get a bit of action. You go into the room and there's 6 men who tie you up.
Yeah.
And you still think you're going to get action, but just not the type of action you were hoping for, really.
And then you've been crimped.
Okay.
Now, obviously, not popular, this. So there were riots about this. 1794, there were the London Crimp riots.
Okay.
Not very well known.
No, not my favourite riots.
I only found out about these research in this episode, where basically someone who was about to be crimped, he was tied up in the top floor, and he jumped out the window to try and flee, died.
Tied up.
Yeah.
He's done well.
Hands behind his back. He leapt out the window like a salmon, splattered himself on the pavement.
God.
And that has led to the crimp riots, mainly outside these crimp houses in Charing Cross. People have showed up and...
So these are people who feel that they are potential victims of crimping, maybe the wives of men who've been crimped.
Yeah, think about your wife. Like, you've popped out to the pub for the evening. Maybe you've got a bit carried away, but there were other ways.
And you've never come back.
And you've gone off, at best, you're probably off to sea for 2 years, at best. If you come back successfully. At worst, you ended up at Trafalgar and you've been ripped in half by
With a
cannon.
cannonball in your face. But it must be mixed emotions for a wife who finds out that her husband's been crimped, because
she doesn't like him.
On the one hand, they're like, well, yeah, if she doesn't like him, great. But on the one hand, they might be like, okay, so my husband's gone down a crimping house. So on the one hand, you're gutted. The man you loved went out for the evening, never came back. That's heartbreaking. But at the same time, you're also finding out he was seeking the services of a madam. He was engaging in some form of sort of prostitution, and you're like, well, do you know what? Fuck him. Let him go to sea.
I think
if he's out at the brothel shagging,
I think it's important.
I don't think I want him to
remember-
come home.
It's important to remember that these crimping houses were they could just be a bar, or they
Right.
could just be a pub. It's not like everyone in there. It wasn't pure brothel.
So he could come back from 2 years at sea and be like, I wasn't there for the prostitutes. I was there for the rum and the blokes.
It was a Saturday evening
Might
with
be
the
worse,
lads.
actually.
Saturday evening with the lads, and one thing led to another, and I've ended up in Dutch East India.
It's literally a night out gone incredibly wrong.
Gone
You've popped
horribly
to the
wrong.
Crimping House for a couple of rums,
Yeah.
and you've done 2 years fighting Napoleon at sea. You come back and you're like, that was loose. That's a hell of a hangover.
Yeah, it's a horrible hangover. Have you ever heard of taking the king's shilling?
Sounds like a euphemism.
So this is another method that they press gang people
Okay.
with a bit more trickery. Where for whatever taking the king's shilling was enlisting. That was your sign-on fee. Again, around 1800, they decided, again, this was like legal, that people would slip the king's shilling into your pint of beer, these enlisters, these crimps. They would slip a shilling into your pint of ale. And if you finished the beer and the shilling was at the bottom of the glass, the tankard, you were considered to have taken the king's shilling. You were now enlisted.
That's legally binding.
That was legally binding, yeah.
That's a contract.
Which sounds made up, really.
That just
doesn't
doesn't
it?
sound real.
Still up in court, this.
Oh, for God's sake, I'm signed up to the Navy.
Yeah.
You get to the bottom of your pint, there's a coin in there. Oh, that's 2 years at sea, is it?
Someone's put a coin in my drink. Now I am a sailor. What?
Oh my God, that is a nightmare.
Mental. It's mental that was.
What are the rules? Like, if you don't finish, what if you're halfway through the pint and you have a quick check and you're like, there's a coin in there.
Yeah.
I do want to finish this beer. I've had a hard week, but at the same time, the second I sit beyond the king's shilling, I'm in the Navy. So maybe it's not worth it. I'll just put the rest of this Stella down, actually.
Yeah, well, you would have successfully have escaped the crimp's clutches, and in fact,
That is actually if you don't finish the
Yeah, if you
pint,
don't
it's
finish
not
it.
legally binding.
Yeah,
that must be
and-
annoying for the crimpers, isn't it? Someone gets right to the bottom, and they're like, "We've got him here, lads," and he's just like, "Nah, actually, I don't fancy it."
I've seen you coming. They would people. It said that people took to carrying their own tankards around with glass bottoms, and then again, you would just hold that up to the light, check under there. If there's a coin in there, drink 3/4, get out, and you've outwitted. Now, this all obviously sounds, I think, to most people, insane, but fairly incredibly widespread to many sources. So, by the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805, it is thought over 50% of the 120,000 sailors serving in the Navy were pressed men, like forcibly enlisted
More than
men.
half
More than half. Now,
had been press ganged.
there's a few sources on this. Some said up to 75%. I've gone with the lower number because it just sounded insane to me that many people would be press gang.
It does raise the question of, if it is so awful, who are the other 49%, let's say for the sake of argument, that are not press ganged, who are willingly in the Navy? Like, how crap is their life?
Criminals, yeah. Criminals.
So they're convicts.
Urchins, street urchins, orphans, anyone, yeah. If it's
So the Royal Navy recruitment team might just go to a jail and be like, you can stay in here and drink puddles and get beaten, or you can come and eat biscuits and fight Napoleon. Those are the
you
options.
can come and get chopped in half by a cannonball.
You know, it might be that, yeah.
I think it's fairly well established at this time, say around 1800, that the only people in the armed forces are the pure dregs of society. It's convicts, it's street urchins, and the occasional unfortunate crimped man.
I've been crimped again.
Yeah. Would you like to hear more about life at sea after you have been press ganged?
Absolutely. So you've been crimped, you've been press ganged, you're now at sea. How bad is it?
Pretty bad, actually. So you go in at the lowest rank. You don't get press ganged, and they're like, "Do you want to drive the ship? Do you want to captain it?"
You've been press ganged to Admiral. You're actually Nelson.
Straight in. Nelson was actually
You're Nelson's boss now.
Nelson was actually just down the pub, and that was how he was recruited. And he ended up on board the Dreadnought.
Wow.
No, that's not what happened to him. So you're the very lowest. The food is abysmal. So common is ship's biscuit, which is often up to a year old, and it's
Sounds
just
crap.
baked months or years in advance. These flour and water biscuits became rock hard. Sailors tapped them on tables to shake out maggots before eating them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I do think perhaps the maggots would have been a much needed source of protein at this stage. So ship's biscuit is water and flour. One of the main ingredients of a biscuit is water here. Is that what we're saying?
And maggot.
And maggot.
And obviously
Maggots-
unwanted maggot. It's maybe like a Garibaldi biscuit.
It's like Garibaldi and the soft, chewy raisins are maggots.
I don't know if I would be knocking the maggots out. I think that might be quite nice.
Just take the maggots at this point. So, ship's biscuit.
Ship's biscuit.
That's like the staple.
That's your
and they're
staple.
baked months in advance, you said?
Or years in advance.
They're baked years in
Yeah,
advance.
this is not good stuff. Now, at the start, you would have salt beef and salt pork, but obviously, quite quickly, that ran out on long voyages. There were some other strange ones, like Skillagalee is a watery broth made from the greasy skimmings of the meat boiling pots.
That can't be a real name.
Skillagalee.
Skillagalee.
They also had...
It's a watery broth.
Yeah, burgoo and lobscouse, which is more made up words.
These are made up.
They are made up words.
Bagoo.
Burgoo is boiled oatmeal into a thick paste.
So like porridge, but really shit porridge.
Really shit porridge. And then
Porridge
obviously
already, in my opinion, quite shit. So
grog, you've probably heard of. Grog was a real thing. And now, to live with these conditions where you're at...
What's a lobscouse, sorry? Can I just get some clarity on what lobscouse is?
Stewed salt meat with crushed biscuit crumb. Now, as you...
That sounds... Of the options, I'm taking the lobscouse off the menu,
You're
actually.
seeing ship's biscuit used everywhere, actually. And this here, they've just crumbled it quite elegantly over your lobscouse.
It's like a breadcrumbed beef broth sort of vibe. Pork broth.
You can imagine like a modern London restaurant reviving this and charging 30 quid a head for it, couldn't you?
You could. And it's called Lobscouse.
I think that's not a bad idea. I'd go to that restaurant. If they gave you like good quality versions of these dishes, I would go to that.
Go to a dining experience where you eat like a
Navy.
early 19th century British naval servant.
Maybe like an admiral. Like this is what Nelson would have
Yeah,
had. So they'll still give you ship's biscuit.
Is Nelson eating ship's biscuit?
Yeah, because they don't. Like Nelson was famous for not stepping foot off his flagship for 2 years. So
He eats the supplies that are on.
yeah,
But
it's not like they're stopping in the middle of the Atlantic for a top up of lobster for him. Maybe you could get lobster actually.
Probably
Bad
could.
example. Beef.
I'm thinking that I would have assumed the officers and senior members might have had their own supplies of, slightly better things than ship's biscuit.
I think it will be better, but again, you were at sea, so they're like
The supplies are limited.
Yeah, for their journeys across the Atlantic and stuff, they would have livestock on the deck. They'd have some chickens and maybe a sheep or a goat, but obviously you can't have.
Have they been crimped?
Yeah, well, in a
Have
way,
they been press ganged?
in a way they have. I suppose.
Press gangs going down to the local chicken farm. You're in the Navy now, son.
Yeah, some poor cow.
You're going to be spread across a ship's biscuit in no time.
But let's talk alcohol. Let's talk grog. So, a key part of the rations was keeping you drunk, because water doesn't stay fresh. So you drink beer because it does stay fresh.
Yeah.
You get how much beer do you get?
It's basically like we're going to get you pissed so that this is vaguely bearable.
Yeah. So you get a gallon of beer a day, which seems
A
lot.
gallon?
Seems
Each?
excessive.
How many
yeah.
people are on this ship? They must have so many gallons of beer on board.
That seems crazy.
That's insane.
They also received a daily ration of grog, which is rum, and it's mixed with a little bit of lime, sort of a cocktail of sorts, to try and
Like a
stave off
Cuba Libre.
scurvy. Sort of a mojito.
Sort of a mojito of sorts. So they're on board. They're on board a ship. They're on a cruise.
Yeah, they would. They
This is
obviously
unreal.
crushed ice. You'll mix that. You'll muddle that
Yeah.
with some mint.
Yeah, bit of. So it's basically a rum-based cocktail aboard a ship, head for the tropics. Press gang me, please.
Yeah, people charge quite a lot of money for a sort of yacht trip to the
Yeah,
tropics.
that's
don't they?
unbelievable.
Um,
P&O ferries.
yeah. Now, obviously, quite a lot of these people die.
So grog. How much grog do you get a day? One a day.
You get, I believe it's a pint of rum a day. So a pint of grog
rum is
and a
obscene.
gallon.
Imagine the hangover these blokes have got.
I think they never ever encounter the hangover by virtue of being drunk constantly.
It's just hair of the dog non-stop.
Yeah.
Hair of the dog, ship's biscuit, fight the French. That repeat.
Eat, sleep, rave, repeat. Now, this I think we're making this sound a bit too nice because we've discussed that people were rioting about press gangs, and also people were deserting once they were aboard the ship. They did not like it. So, 42,000 men in the 10 years leading up to Trafalgar, 1795 to 1805. 42,000 sailors deserted, which was about a third of all sailors. And obviously, if you were caught deserting, it wasn't good.
You get fairly substantially punished.
You were flogged.
Yeah.
and there was a specific punishment.
So up to a third of them tried to flee.
Yeah.
That's a fairly detrimental testament of your sort of employee satisfaction, isn't it? HR are working overtime. A third of the staff are jumping ship, quite literally.
It's not good Glassdoor reviews.
Not good numbers.
Yeah, and they would pull in somewhere to get supplies, and people would just leap overboard basically because they
make a run for it.
Yeah, the captain would know, the officers would know that everyone was trying to leave, so they would set a guard around the harbour. But obviously, when night fell, you know, a lot of people would just
sneak
leap
off,
overboard.
and even if you're in a tiny island in the middle of the Atlantic, they're
Yeah.
do you know what, this is better than the ship.
We will take our chances.
I will never see my wife again if I jump off here, but it's probably worth it.
Yeah. So whipping, flogging was pretty standard for escapees.
Yeah.
For repeated attempts at desertion, you might have heard of, there was something called flogging round the fleet. So
Flogging round the fleet.
say there was 8 ships in the fleet, you were taken round the fleet and flogged on every single one.
They just flog you on every single boat.
Until your back was ribbons and you could see your ribs, you can see your kidneys. Obviously, people started coughing up blood because your kidneys and lungs are just getting whipped to shreds.
Oh, that's nice.
And apparently that would take months and months to recover from because
Surely
you
a
just have
lot
no
of
skin
people
left on
never
your back.
recover from that.
No, I think
You'd
people-
get quite significant infection, no?
Yeah, already being fairly weak from a diet of ship's biscuit and beer,
Yeah.
which is mental.
And grog.
Yeah,
It's a grog and flog system here.
You were quite. Can you imagine like 3 years of that, and then you come home and your wife's like, "What has happened to you?
You look crap.
You look awful. Also,
look
you've been
shocking."
burned. to
Like when you come home from a stag do and
Yeah.
your girlfriend's like, "That was a heavy one, was it? You've done 3 years of grogging and flogging and ship's biscuit.
Yeah,
Come back with your back in ribbons. Miss
Actually,
you."
you probably come home and your wife has married the next door neighbour. So
And then you just wait for him to get crimped and then you're back in.
you take him down the creek and go, I might set you up with my friend Sandra.
Just get you a
actually."
pint. Get you a pint.
No need to bring the glass bottom
Don't bring your own
tankard.
tankard.
Bring that metal one.
It's a nice opaque one.
Have a nice tin tankard.
Off you go, mate.
Come with me, pal.
You like boats, don't you, John?
Yeah. You've always struck me as a quite adventurous chap, John. Why don't you? Anyway.
I imagine there's some sort of standard whip that's used. What does the whip look like?
The cat of nine tails.
A cat of nine. I've heard of a cat of nine
Cat of nine
tails.
tails. It was, well, like a standard handle that's spread then into 9 separate strings. I don't know. Or
Yeah.
thongs.
It's like a flayed.
Yeah. And then in the end of that were like studs of glass or whatever. Just like
that's nice.
into the end of the leather thongs. So it's like a ball with glass and shit in it.
Okay.
And that is what they would just smash over your back then.
That's nice.
So has that made you feel better about helping your nan move?
Yeah. Ultimately, I do feel like the consequences of 48 hours of moving boxes is not quite as significant as the consequences of 3 years at sea.
Yeah, that
She-
is less of it. Yeah,
She didn't give me any grog, is what I will say.
yeah, quite
You know,
lean-fisted.
It was just
quite
sort
tight on the
of
grog.
weak Yorkshire tea. There was no grog. She did have some. We actually cleared out the food cupboards, and there were some things at the back that could have certainly classified as ship's biscuit. I think they were more than years old.
Yeah,
I think there were a couple of Garibaldis from the 70s in the back of her cupboard.
from the Napoleonic Wars.
The
perhaps.
Napoleonic Wars. Yeah, obviously that is quite brutal in terms of working conditions and the definition of doing something against your will. You're literally tricked into it and
Yeah.
trapped. So
I think it's the lack. It's the lack of choice or freedom, which, as we do more of these episodes, that comes up so much. You just have no choice in most of history.
you are told you're doing something.
Forced into doing something.
yeah,
Shall we move on to our second segment, the quote roast?
we absolutely should. Yeah. So for this section, this will be a regular feature where we kind of take a quote from around the time that we're talking about and just dissect it. I think people love to share a quote, and most people will talk about how much they love a quote. We're going to dig a bit deeper into it and analyse it. So I was tasked with finding the quote from this time. And we actually picked one from Napoleon, the enemy of most of these press-ganged men. And it's a very short, sharp one. He says, A true man hates no one. How do we feel about that?
What does that mean to you? I think so. To me, he's saying a man is in control of his emotions. Like he's not getting too caught up in petty squabbles. He's not letting other people dictate to him how he feels or like distract him from his true purpose. And I quite like that. I think that's nice. That's sort of a plough your own furrow, choose your own course. Don't get distracted by petty squabbles or other people.
If you're hooked on hatred, it's going to just take away from the attainment of your goals.
Yeah, no good is going to come of it, really. Having a vendetta or just hating someone, I don't think that's going to benefit you.
What I will say is, from a historical perspective, Nelson, he's got about 90 quotes about hating the French. He hated them. He said the only thing closer to the devil than man is a Frenchman, didn't he? He said French people are the closest to something along those lines. So he hates people, and he achieved more than Napoleon, in a way.
I think that's just, I suppose, in war, probably Nelson stood on his quarterdeck, has seen many of his best friends chopped down by French musket balls or grape shot or cannonballs. So he probably does hate them, yeah.
Yeah, I think
it made him a better sailor, perhaps. As I say, didn't step foot off his ship for 2 years and 3 months while chasing the French fleet, culminating in the Battle of Trafalgar.
Yeah, you would hate them after that.
And he had one eye, one arm, one leg, didn't he? So he
lost all of that.
He'd lost all of that to the French. So if you had one eye, one arm, one leg, you would possibly hate the people that did that to you.
I think there's a healthy level of hatred that you can have.
Yeah. Right. Give us quote rate out of 10. A true man hates no one from Napoleon.
I'm going to give that a 6 out of 10 because I do think that sometimes hatred is good motivation.
Yeah, all right. I'll give it a 7 because I actually quite like the idea of focus on yourself, and I'm not actually engaged in a battle against the French.
I hate that you've said that.
Ollie, that is just about all we have time for today. I hope we've made you feel a little bit better about your problems and reminded you it could be worse.
Yeah, absolutely. And in future episodes, we'd love to feature gripes, modern day gripes from a number of people. They're not always going to come from me. So what I would say is we now have social channels. It Could Be Worse Poddy is the handle. We're on Instagram. Give us a follow on there and feel free to send us in some DMs of your modern day gripes because I think the best of them would be a lovely little hook for our next historical lesson. Maybe we can make you feel better about things. Maybe we can therapize you.
Yeah. And in the meantime, always remember, it could be worse.
It could be worse.